shirt says party, but the title is somber. It's just a whole bunch of contrast at the moment. Personal projects are my backbone. I actually can't remember when I haven't been shooting a personal series, had something on the go even at the most chaotic of times. It's something that you will shoot no matter what. No one's paying you for it. It's something that you believe in and is a reflection of who you are. My catchphrase was, if you're not doing what you want to get paid to do, how are people going to see what you want to get paid to do and get you to do that for them? It's a bit of a mouthful, but the emphasis is there.
You're just swinging around the bottom of the ocean. It's not like an easy dive.
Although a lot of my work is photo and video based, I'm just going to stick to photos for this one because that's kind of where I started with this whole personal project and is how I'm able to do what I'm doing. Rolling. Action. After film school and directing Shark Diver, which I'm really happy with that film, but it didn't open the doors that I had hoped it would open, I realised I really wanted to get back into the ocean. Stumbled across the Underwater Project, which literally was me stumbling across a kid underwater. That series turned into the next 3 years of me chasing people underwater. Working freelance was perfect because if I wasn't shooting on a paid job, I was working on my personal series. Has to be said, this is before kids, before marriage, before mortgages, before everything. It was the perfect thing to be shooting for the time of life that I was in. The Underwater Project series opened up a number of doors. Had editorial newspaper coverage, print sales. My book sold out within like 3 months or 4 months, which was pretty crazy. And all those things were cool from the photos that I was making. But I never realized that film directors were looking at photographers for a different way to capture things. And my background in film helped when they asked me to work on TVCs or short films or documentaries. It all culminated in probably the highest honour that I've had to photograph David Attenborough at the Great Barrier Reef. It was the return of his 50th anniversary to the reef. I never would have thought that chasing people for 3 years photographing underwater could get me to the pinnacle of photographing David Attenborough. I called it quits on the Underwater Project series in winter 2012. I met up in the Cook Islands with Mike, who I kind of started the Underwater Project series with. On the second day, Mike smacked the reef because I asked him to get shallower and shallower and shallower, and he was out. He was literally bleeding from his whole body. Just these tiny little reef cuts that every time he entered the ocean, he was just stinging. He could surf though, and I got some really cool photos of him surfing, but diving under waves in shallow reef, he was like, nah, I'm not down for this. I just went for a swim, photographed some empty waves, but kind of lost a bit of interest in just a breaking wave. On the back of my camera housing, there's the aperture dial, so I cranked it shut, opened up the shutter, just tried to get a bit of motion blur, a little bit of life and emotion into the photos, and found something really cool. That turned into the Mare Vida series, got me noticed by a gallery called Optimus. Signing with Optimus really opened me up to the fine art market instead of the photojournalism underwater project market. I found a little bit of disconnect from people inquiring about the Underwater Project series. They either wanted the people to be not as recognisable in the photos because they wanted it for a foyer entrance for a hotel or something, and having someone's face, 2 meters high was a little bit too confronting. So having no one in the Mare Vida series and that slow shutter giving that life and emotion to the photos, they were like, cool, that works. We can have that whole thing up there. Along the way, I'd met up with the underwater photographer, Sarah. She'd been photographing pretty similar to the Underwater series for years in Hawaii. A friend of hers, Alison Teal, had this harebrained idea to go back to the islands in the Maldives, where she survived for a month in the reality show Naked and Afraid, and show the amount of plastic that was washing up on the beaches.
So jump on board for the adventure of a lifetime through one of the most environmentally threatened countries on Earth, and see how one simple action can change the world.
I think we spent like 4 weeks there. It was a complete contrast from the beauty of the waves and the underwater life. Getting high-fived by mantas was pretty cool. To Trash Island, which was an island off Malé where all of the plastics from the islands was dumped and burned.
Plastics. All the trash in the Maldives, come here.
4 weeks of seeing that huge contrast from the beauty to the horrors. It wasn't until I got back to Sydney and everything went back to normal in my van that I realised what we had seen and done in that quick 4 weeks. The buzz that was so infectious of Sydney was actually now hindering me a little bit because I needed a break from Sydney. So I thought, I'm going to get my bodyboard. I'm just going to paddle out through the breakers with my camera, try to get a little bit of silence. I remember the first photo, I was trying to negate the bumps of the ocean, and then I just gave into it. Just said, if you're going to rock me around, I'm going to press that button and let's make this photo together. I looked at the back of the camera and it was almost like the ocean was breathing at me. So that was it. My new series, in the ocean, sitting on my bodyboard every sunrise. I was still living in my van, alarm set for 10 to 5, get up, have a quick look at what the sunrise is going to be. If it's good, grab my board, my flippers, my housing, run down the rocks through North Bondi, all the way around to Ben Buckler, jump off the point, swim out a couple hundred meters and talk to the ocean. I called this series Searching for Silence because that's exactly what I was trying to do at the time. My head was just a jumble and a mess from the Maldives trip, and the perfect therapy for that was sitting out behind the breakers by myself, watching the sun come up over the ocean. When that series reached Otimus, sales went through the roof. From my basic math, it was about a quarter of my income was coming from just sales from that print. From that first year financially, it was a pretty good decision to jump into the water and wave my camera around like a lunatic. A personal project never has to stop, but for personal reasons, I think this one has found its closure.
See you later, sunset.
I used to share sunrises and sunsets with the ocean. Now I'm sharing them with my kids.
White one's cool.
White's cool.
If we talk about emotion through photos or emotion through experience, being with Finn on sunset is the best thing I've ever experienced, hands down.
You've
done a good job, mate.